As we all know, HDB flat is a 99-year leasehold. It's not a freehold. So, you might be wondering, what will happen when the time is up? Well, this is the most important thing to understand. The 99-year lease is exactly that, a lease. It's not forever. When the 99 years are up, the flat and the land it sits on will go back to the state. There is no compensation. The value of your flat in the final years will drop to practically zero. This has happened before with private properties such as the terrace houses in Geylang, so it's not just in theory. This might sound a bit harsh, but it is all part of Singapore's long-term plan. Since this country is so small, we need to be able to recycle land to build new homes for future generations. The 99-year lease system is how we make sure that happens in an orderly way, so there is always a place for everyone to live. For a long time, there was a lot of hope that older flats would get selected for SERS. SERS was a great deal, almost like winning a lottery. If your block was chosen, the government would buy back your flat at a good price, usually at market value, and offer you a new flat nearby with a fresh 99-year leasehold. However, recently the government has made it clear that SERS is no longer on the table. Some of the reason is because SERS is actually very expensive for the government. It is also disruptive because it involves a small number of people getting a big windfall, while others in similar flats don't. The government is now moving towards a more sustainable and long-term solution. One of the answers is FIRST, or Voluntary Early Redevelopment Scheme. This is the new big thing on the horizon, and it's designed to be a more widespread and predictable way of managing older HDB estates. So here's how FIRST is supposed to work. It is for older flats, so FIRST will be offered to selected precincts when the flats are about 70 years old. This gives residents a way out before the lease runs down completely and the flat's value hits rock bottom. And it's a vote and not a guarantee. Unlike SERS, FIRST is not compulsory. When your precinct is selected, residents will get to vote on whether they want to go ahead with it. The government has hinted that a large majority, perhaps similar to the Home Improvement Program vote, would be needed for the project to proceed. And then another thing to note is that compensation is different. The big difference from SERS is the compensation. While the final details are still being worked on, it is widely expected that the payout under FIRST will be less generous than a SERS windfall. It will likely reflect the remaining lease value of your flat and not come with the same kind of bonus that SERS was known for. This is because the flats are much older and the government needs to make sure the scheme is fair and financially sustainable for everyone and not just for one generation. But even FIRST is not guaranteed. Just because your block is 70 years old, it doesn't mean that it will be automatically be offered first. The government has said that the scheme will be rolled out progressively to selected sites. This means there is a real possibility that some blocks will not even be chosen for first. If your block is not chosen, then you'll have to deal with the reality of a flat with a dwindling lease. This leads to a few challenges. The first challenge is lease decay. The value of your flat will continue to drop as the years pass. It's a bit like a car. The older it gets, the less it's worth. And then second, limited buyers. It will become harder to sell a flat with a short remaining lease. Banks are often less willing to give out loans for these flats, and there are restrictions on using CPF money to buy them. This shrinks your pool of potential buyers. And then, if you hold on to the flat until the very end, the lease will eventually expire and the property will revert to the state without any payout at all. You might be wondering, can't the government just extend the lease for a fee or something? This is a valid question because there are quite a lot of HDB built around the same time. The sheer number of HDB flats built in the same era creates a ticking time bomb scenario. If not handled properly, it could lead to massive social and political problems with hundreds of thousands of people facing a housing crisis all at once. If the building is still safe and if the government can charge a fee to extend the lease, wouldn't that solve the problem of value dropping to zero and allow people to stay in their homes? The short answer is, for HDB flats, it is not a policy the government has committed to, and based on what they have said so far, it's highly unlikely. The Singapore government's current policy does not allow HDB flat owners to pay a fee to extend their 99-year lease. This is a deliberate approach rooted in the country's unique land scarcity. The 99-year lease is not just a tenure of ownership, it's a fundamental part of the nation's land recycling strategy, ensuring that a severely limited resource can be reclaimed and redeveloped for future generations. Allowing a blanket extension for a fee would undermine this core principle, potentially creating a perpetual housing stock that prevents urban renewal and the building of new, higher density homes. While some private property owners can apply to the SLA or Singapore Land Authority for a lease top-up, this is a separate and distinct process. The fee, a substantial land premium, is typically assessed on a case-by-case basis and is not guaranteed. This contrasts with the HDB system, which is a public housing model governed by a different social compact. The government's clear stance is that the public housing system's longevity and affordability for all Singaporeans depend on its ability to recycle land, a goal that a widespread lease extension for a fee would directly contradict. Instead of lease extensions, the government is focusing on first, as we mentioned. When I was doing my research for this video, I was thinking to myself, but how come there are some private condos with freehold status? Why not HDB also being given a freehold status then? The fundamental reason why condominiums can have a freehold status while HDB flats do not is the distinction between private property and public housing. Condominiums are developed on land that is either freehold or on a 99-year lease or sometimes 999-year lease from the government, which is then sold to private developers. Freehold land in Singapore is a scarce and highly prized asset, and its ownership is typically held in perpetuity, giving the owner the right to the land indefinitely. This freehold status has historical roots. Before the government began its large-scale land acquisition for public housing, much of the land was owned privately, some with perpetual or freehold titles. When these private landowners sell their land to a developer, or when the government sells a rare plot of land on a freehold basis, the developer builds a private condo on it. In this scenario, the ownership of the individual units includes a share of the freehold land, which is a major reason for the significant price premium of freehold condos over their leasehold counterparts. In contrast, the entire HDB system operates on a leasehold model. The government acquires the land and uses it to provide affordable and accessible housing for the majority of the population. The 99-year lease is a key tool in this strategy. It allows the government to efficiently recycle land at the end of the lease, ensuring the land can be used to build new homes for future generations. This is a crucial element of Singapore's long-term urban planning and is essential for managing land scarcity in a densely populated nation. Therefore, the difference isn't about the building's quality or safety, but rather the underlying land title and the different objectives of each type of housing. Condos are part of the private property market where the premium for perpetual ownership is determined by market forces and scarcity. HDB flats, on the other hand, are part of a social housing system where the government retains control of the land to serve the collective and long-term needs of the entire nation. So what can you do now? Well, this isn't a story of doom and gloom, but rather one of realistic financial planning. The government has provided some schemes to help older Singaporeans deal with this issue. The first one is Lease Buyback Scheme or LBS. If you are 65 or older and live in a smaller flat, you can sell part of your flat's lease back to HDB. You get to continue living in the flat for a set number of years while receiving a lump sum that goes into your CPF retirement account to provide a monthly income for the rest of your life. The second one is Silver Housing Bonus or SHB. This scheme is for seniors who sell their old flat and buy a smaller one. You get a cash bonus if you top up your CPF retirement account with the sale proceeds. In summary, while the 99-year lease provides a home for us, it is not an asset that will appreciate indefinitely or guaranteed to be a huge cash cow at the very end. The key is to be aware of the lease decay and to use the schemes that are available to you. This is important to make sure that you have enough for your retirement when the time comes. But what do you think? Let me know in the comment section down below. To get exclusive contents and support my work, click the join button to be part of the online family. Your support means a lot to keep us independent. Don't forget to join the membership and I'll see you on my next video. Bye bye!